Buckle up, we're going to Japan. No, not for sushi. For history. Once upon a time in Japan, there were super cool bands. No, not the kind with guitars and drums, but bands of hunters and gatherers. They were the OG inhabitants of Japan and named the Jomon, which translates to cord-marked, after their pottery style. They made everything from pots to figurines, and they were the must-have items of the time. Think of it as the iPhone of the Jomon period. Everyone wanted one. Some say they even queued overnight in front of pottery stores. Now, the Jomon folks had been happily hunting and gathering, but then the Yayoi people came along and said, "Hey, ever heard of this thing called rice?" The Jomon folks were intrigued, and so began Japan's long-lasting love affair with rice. Rice farming became all the rage. Villages sprouted up around rice paddies, and Japan's first attempts at a government began. Suddenly, eating rice was not just a trend, it was a lifestyle. Then there's the kofun, with their big mounds. Everyone loves a grand grave. With food sorted, the Japanese turned their attention to fashion, specifically accessorizing with lovely jewelry. The Kofun period is named after the massive burial mounds, or kofun, built for leaders. But it wasn't just about burying the dead, it was also about showing off. These mounds were like the Instagram of ancient Japan. Leaders would compete to have the most lavish tomb, decorated with weapons, jewels, and sometimes even clay soldiers. Talk about resting in style. Here comes Asuka. Buddhism's in the chat, and the Chinese rulebook is everyone's favorite bedtime read. Big characters, bigger wisdom. The Japanese then thought, we need a hip and happening place to hang out. Enter Nara, the first permanent capital, and with it came Buddhism, arts, and a ton of deer, which you can still see wandering around today. Temples were built, scriptures were written, and the country began to truly develop a cultural identity. Also during this time, the world got the gift of The Tale of Genji, considered the world's first novel. Nara's cool, but Heian's where it's at. Think less governing, more poetry, less who's in charge, and more who's got the fanciest fan. The capital then moved to Kyoto, and things got very high society. Think of it as ancient Japan's version of Beverly Hills. The nobility loved their poetry, art, and tales of romance. Women rocked elaborate 12-layer kimonos, and everyone was writing poems. Seriously, if you weren't writing or reciting poetry, you were nobody. It was an era of cultural boom, but also political decline, as the powerful Fujiwara clan pulled the strings behind the scenes. Kamakura's in, and so are samurais. Imagine being a sword-wielding influencer. Also, let's add some Zen to the mix, because why not? Inner peace and sharp blades. Then came the age of the samurai. As the political power of the nobility waned, warriors took the center stage. The first shogunate, military government, was established in Kamakura. Samurai weren't just about fighting. They had a code, Bushido. It was all about honor, discipline, and loyalty. And yes, there were epic battles, warrior monks, and legendary tales that would inspire countless anime and manga series. Next, there's Muromachi. It's chaos, but make it cultural. Oh, and there's a reality show with Nobunaga, Hideyoshi, and Ieyasu. Spoiler, they want to be the top boss. After some internal strife, a new shogunate rose in Kyoto, bringing with it a cultural renaissance. Zen Buddhism became the new trend, leading to the creation of beautiful rock gardens and the art of the tea ceremony. This period wasn't all Zen, though. There were wars, known as the Warring States period. So, while some folks were meditating and sipping tea, others were clashing swords. This was the era of Japan's three great unifiers: Oda Nobunaga, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and Tokugawa Ieyasu. These guys were like the rock stars of unification. They each played a part in bringing the country together after a long time of conflict. Castles were built with grandeur, showcasing the power and wealth of the ruling class. And if you think gold is only for jewelry, think again. Entire tea rooms were coated in gold leaf. Edo, it's peace, quiet, and isolation. Japan's basically saying, we're not home to the rest of the world. Tokugawa Ieyasu set up shop in Edo in modern-day Tokyo and established a shogunate that would last for over 250 years. Japan decided to shut its doors to most foreign influences, making it the OG social distancer. This period saw the rise of kabuki, sumo, and ukiyo-e woodblock prints. Cities thrived, the economy boomed, and culture blossomed. But all good things come to an end, and soon, Japan would be thrust into a new age of revolution. Knock knock, guess who? It's the West in 1853, bringing steamships and a wake-up call to Japan's door. They're here with a proposal and a few big cannons for emphasis. Japan, after a few moments of stunned contemplation, finally responds. All right, we'll modernize. Let's shake things up. And boy, did they. It wasn't just a simple shift. It was more like a turbocharged race car blasting from 0 to 100. The 20th century. It's a whirlwind of emotions, from world wars that shook the very foundations of nations, to peace movements that aim to heal those wounds, to the dawn of a digital age that nobody saw coming. We've now entered the Reiwa era, marking a fresh chapter for Japan. While the country deeply cherishes its traditions, from tea ceremonies to cherry blossom festivals, it's also dancing in the digital reign of the modern world. Just take a look. From the temples to TikTok, the nation seamlessly merges the ancient with the avant-garde. Japan's spirit, unyielding. It keeps evolving, yet it remains grounded, always a step ahead in innovation, but with a heart that pulses to the rhythm of its rich history. And through it all, Japan, forever radiant, forever vibing.